Kyle Busch had yet another abysmal weekend at Miami. He only managed to finish 31st and get 5 points out of the race. This has been the story of the season for Busch, but it may not be all his fault. The number 8 driver claims that NASCAR is conspiring against him and preventing him from getting a 20-year win streak. Busch's conversation with his spotter and crew chief accuses NASCAR of cheating and sabotaging the number 8 crew. During the race, NASCAR flagged Busch for a safety violation that sent him to the back of the grid. This gave Busch an uphill battle, which he could not complete. When this penalty was given, there was an interesting conversation that took place between Busch, his spotter, and the crew chief on the radio. "How does that even happen?" Busch asked his spotter, Derek Nealand, about the safety violation. "What is it?" "I don't know," the spotter replied. "It was vague. That was all they said, safety violation. So I don't know if it's the orange line coming in around the 77 or what, so I don't know." "Yes, that is correct." Crew chief Randall Burnett jumped into the conversation. "It was an orange line violation. Your left sides were inside the orange line. Sorry, I've been down here trying to talk to the officials, trying to get it figured the fuck out." Busch then said, "I thought it was only if the pit crew was out there. His pit crew was around to the left side. If they're in their pit stall, it's a penalty," Burnett replied. "I have no idea how you're supposed to stop in your boxes. That's a new one for me," Busch suggested. "Well, if anybody's going to get the bullshit, it's going to be us," Nealand said. "It's par for the course this year." "So, clarification on pitting outside the box. We didn't do anything," Busch said. "We're backed up." "Yeah, I know. I'm down here arguing with them," Burnett replied. "We didn't do anything wrong. They just fucked with us like normal. But we did not pit outside the box, so I don't know what they're talking about. Kind of just making it up as we go, like they had the last couple months," Nealand added. NASCAR flagged the number 8 as Busch had gone over the orange line out of the pit box before theirs. This was considered to be a safety violation by NASCAR. However, the pit crew of the number 77 was not in the pit box at all. They were on the right side of the wall and there was no risk of slightly crossing the orange line. Over the years, we've seen several drivers do this if there's no pit crew in the box, but NASCAR decided now would be a good time to punish Busch. And now is a good time for you to hit that subscribe button for our channel. We post the best and latest news on NASCAR, so don't miss out on the action. Kyle Busch has hinted at this perceived conspiracy before, particularly when facing controversial rulings or penalties that he feels are excessively harsh or selectively enforced. In his view, NASCAR's officiating sometimes feels biased, leading him to suggest that they may have an agenda against him or his team. He believes these penalties not only disrupt his race strategies, but also put his team at a disadvantage in the broader playoff standings. This notion of a conspiracy has sparked conversations among fans, with some backing Busch's viewpoint, seeing his penalties as unusually strict or poorly timed, often occurring when he's competing in high-stakes situations. Others, however, argue that Busch's history of pushing boundaries on the track has simply made him a target for stricter enforcement. NASCAR has denied any bias, asserting that all drivers and teams are held to the same standard of rules, and that Busch's penalties are no different from those enforced across the board. Nonetheless, the conspiracy theory persists among some in the NASCAR community, adding a layer of tension to Busch's dynamic with NASCAR officials. For Busch, these perceived injustices fuel his desire to push harder against what he sees as an uneven playing field, adding drama to each race where he feels he's being unfairly targeted. Whether this tension will ultimately impact Busch's performance or his relationship with the sport remains to be seen, but it certainly keeps the spotlight on him and NASCAR's officiating. It is true, though, NASCAR is paying close to no attention towards Kyle Busch. Busch has been in this sport for the past 20 years. Until this season, he's come away with at least one victory per year. Although he has not won a race yet this year, he's still looking to do so in the next 2 races. If he's able to accomplish this, he will have accomplished an incredible achievement, going 20 years by winning at least one race every season. This would be a good journey to follow for the NASCAR Full Speed series that's exclusively on Netflix. But Busch is not being followed at all this year. When asked if he was approached by Netflix, he said, "No, they didn't ask me. Maybe it comes down to that you must be in the playoffs to be on video. I don't know, but I think my story of the 20-year thing would be a pretty good one," he said. "But they're not following along, so you won't see much of me." Clearly, NASCAR is doing everything possible to not focus on Busch right now. They're ruining his race and taking the spotlight away from him. But right now, NASCAR has their own problems. Just a few weeks back, 23XI Racing and FRM decided to file an antitrust lawsuit against NASCAR for their negotiations for the new charter agreement. Kyle Busch claims that he was the catalyst in this lawsuit. "Other sports are healthy," he said. "They're a lot healthier than ours. I was sort of the catalyst to this process of what's going on in the charter agreements," Busch explained. When I was with Joe Gibbs Racing, we lost our main sponsor, M&M's, as they pulled out of the sport. And I was left without a job because we couldn't find a replacement sponsor. NASCAR is a great family sport, and we have these opportunities of supporting one another at a lot of times and through a lot of good and a lot of bad. But as most families do, sometimes they fight, Busch said. Kyle Busch stated that he feels he was somewhat of a catalyst for the current lawsuit brought by 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports against NASCAR. In 2022, when Busch's longtime sponsor M&M's left Joe Gibbs Racing, the team faced a financial struggle due to NASCAR's current revenue structure. NASCAR's model heavily relies on sponsorship for team revenue, and without a primary sponsor to replace M&M's, JGR couldn't afford to keep Busch on board. This situation forced Busch to join Richard Childress Racing, where he found a position supported by a new sponsor. This incident highlighted what Busch and others view as a systemic flaw in NASCAR's financial framework. Unlike other major sports leagues where teams receive substantial revenue from the league itself, NASCAR's model puts the onus on individual teams to secure sponsorship to cover costs. This dynamic can create instability, as sponsorship losses directly impact a team's ability to retain drivers and stay competitive. For 23XI Racing and FRM, the lawsuit against NASCAR argues that this model places an undue burden on teams, with NASCAR retaining control over revenue streams through the charter system and track contracts, limiting teams' financial stability. The plaintiffs contend that the current structure stifles competitive growth and limits teams' financial independence, issues that Busch experienced firsthand when he had to leave JGR. In the midst of a challenging season marked by penalties, controversies, and unfulfilled opportunities, Kyle Busch's frustrations echo broader issues within NASCAR's evolving landscape. His claims of being marginalized, whether through penalties or lack of media coverage, underscore a sense of isolation from the sport he's contributed to for 2 decades. For Busch, the 20-year win streak represents more than just a personal milestone. It's a testament to his resilience and competitiveness, even as he feels increasingly at odds with the sport's ruling body. As NASCAR faces its own internal battles, particularly the antitrust lawsuit challenging its financial model, Busch's situation serves as a case study in how revenue dynamics and sponsorship reliance impact drivers, teams, and the sport's overall stability. His experience with Joe Gibbs Racing and eventual shift to Richard Childress Racing highlights the precarious position many teams face under the current system. Whether or not the lawsuit leads to any meaningful change, the issues it raises are clear. Without a sustainable financial structure, NASCAR risks losing some of its top talent and the very drivers who fuel fans' passion. As the season approaches its finale, Busch remains determined to fight for that elusive 20th year with a win, bringing his story full circle. Despite the challenges he perceives from within NASCAR, he's committed to pushing forward, aiming to add yet another chapter to a remarkable career. The outcome and how NASCAR navigates its internal and external pressures may shape not only Busch's legacy, but also the future of the sport. Do you think NASCAR is being fair to Kyle Busch? Post your thoughts in the comments section below.